Hello and welcome to another Star Wars Destiny video. It's been a while, but Worlds is over now, and I'm going to hopefully start producing more videos. And I'm sorry, I have a cold today, so I might not sound the best. And I'm also sorry that it's been so long since I last made a video. But I figured it was about time to make a Worlds recap video. Um, Now, this isn't the only video I'm going to be making, because I believe sometime in the very near future I will be recording another video with actually some of the members of my testing partners, my Destiny team, if you want to call it that, um, that helped me playtest for Worlds, that were also at Worlds, and who did exceptionally well. We actually, had, the four of us made it into the top 16. And during the Swiss, we had a combined record of like 32-4. And one of those four losses was to another member of the team. So that's a shout out to Andrew Rothermel, who went 9-0 during the Swiss and made it to the round of 8. Will Klein, he went 8-1 in the Swiss. His only loss was to Andrew. Brian Lindbergh was 7-2 in the Swiss, and I was 8-1 in the Swiss. So shout out to them. They did very well, and they also helped me get ready for Worlds. But yeah, so first things first, not Worlds. So I went to the Chance Cube Open, and I actually did well. I mean, I won it. It was just a 28-person tournament, so it wasn't huge, but it was fun. It was just Swiss. I went 5-0, so it was a good time. I believe if you go to their Facebook page, the Chance Cube Facebook page, you should be able to see the videos from the top table throughout the event, and I'm in 2 of them. So the 3rd video and the 5th video I should be in. And the 3rd video is actually an interesting video that showcases the use of one of my tech cards, All In. So if you want to watch and see what All In can do, that would be a good video. But in any case, that went well. It was fun. It was kind of a nice confidence boost going in the Worlds to have that 5-0, you know. And it was also fun because there were people from Spain and stuff like that at the event, so it was cool. But in any case, Worlds. So first things first, I'm proud of you Poe Rey players. All the people who watch my video and stuff, and who play the deck, because there were like 3 Poe Reys day one. Like there were like none. I was the only one who made the cut day one. I was 6-0, so that's pretty good. But then the second day there were a ton of Poe Reys. There were like 17 or something like that. Um, but if you look at it as a whole, there were like 20 Poe Reys or so, and there are about 180 some competitors. So about 1/9 of the field was Poe Rey. There were more Beta Raiders, and I think more Han Rays and more Phasma Battle Troopers. But Poe Rey had 4 decks in the top 16. So good job, guys. It feels good to have a 1/9 deck ratio and a 1/4 in the top 16. None of them went that far. 3 of them got eliminated first round, and one of them got eliminated in the second round in the round of 16. But still, once you get into the top 16, it's very swingy, and some of it's out of your control. But um, I'm glad that we did so well. It's good to have that under my belt, and it was fun actually talking to lots of people at the event who had read my article or watched my videos. So that was cool. But yeah, Poe Rey did well at the tournament. My results. So I did quite well. Day one I 6-0'd. Day two I lost my first match to the Vader Raider, who would later go on to win the tournament. And that was just a match where I never drew defensive positions, and which really sucks against Vader Raider, because then you're just left open to whatever they want to do, and then you just reroll and deal like 6 to 12 damage every turn. So that hurt, not being able to remove any of that. There were multiple turns where I was just thinking like, man, if I had defensive position, it'd save me like 12 damage right now. But hey, sometimes you drop early. But other than that, I won every game in the Swiss. And then I made it to the top 16, and I get my first round is against another Poe Rey player. And man, the Poe Rey mirror I feel really good about. I hadn't even lost a Poe Rey mirror. Like I mean, I'd lost to Poe Rey in like a best of three, but I'd won two of the games in that best of three previous to this. But I'd never lost the Poe Rey in a tournament. Um, so I was feeling good about it, but at the same time, a Poe Rey is very volatile, and the games are super fast because both of you make so much use out of the battlefield. Um, that like no joke, we were done with all three games in like 40 minutes. Um, like game two took like 8 minutes. It was ridiculous. So it's a very volatile match. Um, my typical strategy is actually go Ray first. Um, I mean, it depends. I mean, going for Poe first actually usually gives you wins. But going for Ray first feels like um, the better play because you typically get the kill a turn earlier, and you reduce their upgrade dice. Um, and I mean, sometimes they'll get out the both sabers before she dies, but most of the time or a lot of the time you'll be able to take off like an upgrade in the process of killing Ray, and also you just kill her faster, and you get that dice advantage faster, which is really nice. Um, so that was my strategy for the games. The first game, it worked out. I slaughtered him in the first game. Um, it's not like he played poorly, but I got out the early damage and killed the Ray, and it was just he couldn't come back from it. Um, the second game also went relatively well for me. Um, I killed his Ray. He killed my Ray. We're going down and we're playing back and forth, and it's going fine, right? I have 6 damage on my Poe, and he has I don't know how much damage on his Poe. I don't remember exactly anymore. But I hit and run. I get the 3-for-1. I deal the 3-for-1, right? So I have 6 damage left on my Poe, and I have a field medic in hand, and I'm feeling pretty good because now he's basically in kill range. Where if if I were to claim with my next action and then start out the next turn, or to like just field medic and then claim, I'd basically win the match, and that'd be the best of three series. But instead, there were two rolls out of the 36 possible combinations that would kill me. Um, the double special roll or the double 3-for-1 roll. And he also has to have a hit and run to kill me because I have a field medic in hand. And I also had, I believe, a dodge. Um, lo and behold, he has his second field. He has his second hit and run. And what does he do? He hits and runs and gets double special. It was like the worst feeling, like the 1 in 18 probability that I die off of his hit and run, and like the probability of him actually having his second hit and run in hand was not that high either. He had like 15 cards left in his deck. Um, so that felt really bad to lose game two off the double Poe special. It was rough. But then we go into game three, and I stuck to my game plan. I probably should have just tried to kill Poe because it would have felt better. I don't know. Maybe I would have won if I killed Poe first. But I killed the Ray first, and once again got the dice advantage. Because he all he had was a 1 with the force, and 1 with the force in the Poe Rey mirror is actually pretty terrible once it's not out. Not once it's not on a character, once it's a support, because you're you're both able to make such good use out of the battlefield, out of the claiming for the special, that it's really really important to be ahead of your opponent in actions so you can claim. And taking a whole action to roll out the 1 with the force dice usually means he won't claim that turn. So he has a Poe with just his 2 dice against my Poe with 8 damage on him, and my Ray with no damage, 3 shields, and 2 upgrades on her. Um, and then he starts, right? And uh, what are the odds that he has a hit and run? Well, of course, he has a hit and run. So this is the turn after I killed his Ray. He plays hit and run. Now, the odds of him killing my Poe off of this hit and run are not horrible, but they're not great. If he has a Mind Probe in his hand, it significantly ups the odds because a single special is a kill. I don't think he had one. But in any case, there's only so you can either he has to roll 2 ranged dice to kill me or 2 specials. So that's like 5 out of 36 odds, or a single special if he has Mind Probe. So 536 is not great odds, but if he had a Mind Probe, then he has pretty good odds. But they're still like 30% or something like that. Um, so odds are I'm fine, right? But he of course has his hit and run. He of course plays his hit and run, and he of course rolls 5 damage, right? Kills my Poe. And then my Rey with 3 shields and 2 upgrades against his Poe with no upgrades uh, can't win because every turn from then on out he rolled a special, at least one natural special, and then like a resource or a disrupt or something like that, and then he would be able to resolve the special and then claim for a special every turn. And Poe Rey has nothing to deal with specials. I'm sitting there with like deflects in hand and dodges in hand, and I'm rolling out a Rey with like good upgrades on her and getting nothing. Like I rolled mind probe dice like 6 times and never got a special. That's including rerolls. But at one point I like rolled out 2 mind probes and got like nothing. But yeah, it was. I mean, I don't mean to discredit my opponent. He was playing very well. He was doing what he's supposed to be doing. But it felt really bad to lose twice in a row with a Poe with no dice, no upgrades against my characters with upgrades. Twice I lost. Um, felt really bad, especially that second game, losing to double special hit and run Poe. It was like, what? Um, so yeah, I lost. I lost in the round of 16 to another Poe Rey. But I mean, he played well, and that's the thing is that if you roll well in these round of 16s, you're at that point you made it to round of 16. You're a good enough player to be there. It's not like if you roll well, you're gonna win. Especially, I rolled terribly the third game. I got nothing out of my upgrades. It was ridiculous, but it was still good. It was still fun. I felt I was felt disappointing to lose in the round of 16 because I felt pretty good about the best of threes. But ultimately, I can't complain about an 8-1 um, Worlds showing in the Swiss. And then I got some cool stuff. I got like a little medallion if you want proof. I got the like playmat thing here. It's actually a pretty cool playmat. So I hope I'm actually showing you this. It's in screen. Uh, but yeah, so that's how Worlds went for me. Now I want to talk about my Worlds Poe Rey. Now there, for the most part, it was the same as the video that I made a while back, and the same that everybody runs. But there's changes that I've made to my deck that I found make it just out of this world strong, um, compared to other Poe Reys, and it just makes the deck so good. Um, and it's the only thing I didn't talk to people about because it's the only like hidden tech that I wanted to keep. Like, okay, this is my secret. This is what I'm running. And that card is All In. Um, All In is absolutely bonkers good in Poe Rey. It takes the deck from like a tier 1.5 and makes it tier 1. Um, it is just flat insane. So I took out my willpowers and I put in all-ins. And then these force misdirections. Force misdirection is good, but it doesn't hit that often. It's very unreliable, and lots of people in the Minnesota meta kill Rey first, which really hampers the card's effectiveness. So I took it out as a kind of a meta call and put in these ranged hate cards. Um, Dodge, because of course Dodge is so good against um, ranged decks. It saved me multiple times. And then it's a trap because I only have Poe's red dice, but the potential power of it against any range deck of just being able to pay 1 and deal 4 or pay 2 and deal 5 is typically just I get a guaranteed kill on a character. Now, ultimately, I feel like It's a Trap is only ever a one of in my versions of Poe Rey because it's a card you hold on to a lot. Because A, you need your opponent to roll something that you want to It's a Trap on, and B, half the time you don't even need to use It's a Trap because Poe just rolls well anyways. He has 50% damage sides, so if you roll up Poe and get like a special 2, you don't really need to It's a Trap that. It's only when you have bad rolls that you need it, which is only like half the time. But sometimes you'll roll out 2 resource, and do you really want to It's a Trap for the 1 extra damage side? Well, if it kills the character, yes. But ultimately, you hold on to It's a Trap a lot, and you never want to have 2 It's a Traps in your hand. So it feels really bad to draw into 2 It's a Traps because it's just a flat dead card at that point. Also, because Poe tends to be a target a lot of the time, I mean, you don't really want to have so many dud cards once Poe dies. So It's a Trap is a solid one of that I put in because it's so good against range decks, and it's really solid. This is also the other frustrating thing about my mirror matchups that I played. I never once drew my It's a Trap in our matchup, and It's a Trap is so good against Poe Rey Mirror because it's so good on specials. Your opponent shows so many specials throughout the game, and you're just able to It's a Trap double special. I did have it once, but from a hand of 4 cards, he resolved the Rey 1 discard and discarded it. So that was really sad. So this tech should have been really good in the mirror. Never drew it. Never got to use it. So yeah, that was the differences to my deck. Now I'm going to talk about why All In is so effective. So ultimately, it's because you have a lot of focus in your deck, and a lot of early focus in Comlink and Jedi Robes. These are the 2 cards that I want to start the game with. Comlink is insane turn 1 because you're able to either soft control with it against decks that are going to reroll a bunch turn 1, or you're going to be able to reroll Poe's dice to get a more guaranteed early damage with it. Robes is obviously insane for the 2 shields, but then ultimately they're insane because they have 2 focus sides and 2 resource sides. So what you're able to do is you're able to roll out Rey with one of these upgrades, and you either get 2 resources just naturally, or you get like 1 resource side on Rey and a focus on the upgrade, and you are able to focus the other Rey dice to a resource and take 2 resources. And that is the best turn 1 possible that you can get from Rey is 2 resources or more. I've rolled out just flat 3 resources a lot of the time with just a single upgrade, and that is a huge bonus for the rest of the game. So these upgrades are your good early game upgrades. But then even on turn 2, but especially on turn 3, these upgrades turn from these I'm going to ramp a little bit upgrades into I'm going to kill you upgrades, because they give you a 1/3 chance at a guaranteed Poe special. Because they have 1/3 of their dice are focus. So what you're able to do is I'm able to, as a first action, roll Rey. Right? And I can see that, my Rey with a Jedi Robes Comlink on her just rolled 2 focus sides, or a single focus side, right? I'm sitting there with a hit and run and an all in my hand. I know that I can guarantee a Poe special, right? Which is just insane to be able to know. Poe special is so strong, and these cards give you an extra chance at getting a Poe special. Now, let's say that you also play a Rey Staff Jedi Robes, right? If you draw All In and One with the Force ever together, these cards are just insane, because what you can do is turn 2, and I actually almost did this in a tournament. I didn't have One with the Force, but I was able to do crazy stuff anyways. Is turn 2, if you play Robes on turn 1, roll out and get 3 resources with Rey, and then play a Rey Staff, right, out on Rey or on Poe, and then roll in Poe, or whatever you want to do, right? Let's say that going into turn 2, you have these 2 upgrades. If you have All In, this is, you can just get a Poe special. But if you have All In and One with the Force, it is insane, because what you do is you roll out Rey, you get the focus, then you hopefully action cheat Poe, but if you can't, you just roll him naturally. But if you have hit and run All In One with the Force, all you have to do is hit and run Poe, play the All In, focus to a Poe special, resolve it for the triple focus on One with the Force, focus to the 3-for-1 on the Rey Staff, to the +2 on Rey, the +2 on Rey, and then the 3-for-1 on Poe. Now you'll notice that the math doesn't work out. That was 4 focus, but hopefully one of your Rey dice or one of your Poe dice hits something good. And at that point, you have in 2 actions on turn 2 belt 7 melee and a Poe die, which is either going to be the 3-for-1, the 2, or it could be something like a Mind Probe. So this is a turn 2, in 2 actions you could deal 12 damage, all from just hoping for a 33% chance on the Robes, or simply a rolling a Poe special naturally. So a common critique that you might give to this is that, what if you don't roll the focus? The thing is, it's okay if you don't roll the focus, because you still get your Poe dice chance, right? You still get to roll Poe naturally and go did I get the Poe special, right? But these focus are this extra, even greater odds at rolling a special. That means that this happens a lot. You're able to all in a ton in this deck because of how much focus there is. And if you ever get off the all in One with the Force play, it is insane. I know that in the Swiss, I had an all in on turn 2 against a Jango Battle Trooper, and I was able to kill the Battletique and the Trooper off of the all-in just from nowhere. It was 8. It was an 8 damage all-in on turn 2, just with Rey Staff and Robes. And it's just it's so crazy good. I don't know. There's no other deck that has as explosive of a play as this. Um, it's yeah. I cannot emphasize how many games I've won off of just I rolled a focus on Robes. I guess I win. it's it's so good. Um, so yeah, that is I believe the key to why I think my Poe deck version that I ran at Worlds was better than the Poe deck from the video in like February that I made. Um, so yeah, that was my hidden tech. Now, obviously, Spirit of Rebellion has released, so it's this none of this is very relevant anymore. Um, so I want to talk a little bit about the future of Poe Rey. Um, ultimately, I think that you have to keep these 8 cards. Um, the potential all-in play with these focus cards is just too insane, and also simply being these cards are just so good for early game resource generation. You want to get more dice. Lots of people find that Poe Rey is very hit or miss, and the reason why that is because they don't get out enough dice. But in my deck, I'm just like, get out as many dice as I can in the first couple turns, and now I have more odds at just rolling something good because I have more dice than my opponent. Um, and with the focus and all in, that means just more odds at getting the specials. So dice fixing is important for consistency, and this is your dice fixing kit, and also just your ramping kit. Starting with either of these upgrades will get you a ton of resources. Um, so I see that staying in the deck. Now, oddly enough, I actually see Mind Probe coming out of the deck. The deck is tight for cards, and while Mind Probe is potentially 5 damage, a lot of the time it isn't, because you have to it has to be the first action Mind Probe before your opponent has laid down cards, and most of the time it's actually around 3 damage. And like even in that tournament where I played like 12 games, I probably got off like I don't know 2 Mind Probes off of action sheets, and like one of them dealt 4, one of them dealt 5, right? Like it's not that common that you have Mind Probe and an action sheet, and you hit the special on the first roll in. It's crazy good, right? So it's worth keeping in, and normally you still like end up claiming for it and dealing 3 damage, and things like that. But it's not like a every turn thing. And the issue with the card is that you don't want to play it on Rey. Especially early, you don't want to spend 4 resources on an upgrade. You want to get more dice, and not have a single big die. You want to have 2 mediocre dice, just more consistency that way. And Mind Probe re-rolls terribly. If you don't, it's not very good for claiming for, and it's not very good for re-rolling, because the longer the turn progresses, the less cards your opponent has in their hand. So if you're claiming for this, it's normally like you're paying 1 to deal the 3, which isn't that fabulous. And if you played it on Rey and you roll out and you miss the specials, and you're re-rolling it, once again they have less cards now, so it just doesn't do as much. Whereas having a lightsaber on Rey, it's 1 cheaper, which means more resources, which is really important because of how many pay sides you have and how many events you want to use. It's 1 cheaper. It has redeploy, so that if Rey gets targeted first, it moves over, and it has 3 damage sides anyways. Now they deal less damage, but you have a 3-for-1 and a 3-for-1. You have a +2, which is obviously worse than a special, and you have a special, which is obviously worse than a special. But the thing is, these are always useful sides, regardless of when you roll them in the turn, whereas oftentimes re-rolling Mind Probe at the end is like 1 damage, which is nothing, or 0 damage, right? So I'd rather have the cheaper lightsaber, or the card that's truly being slotted into that spot in my mind is the handcrafted light bow, because this is just a 3 for free, or potentially 5 damage if your opponent has shields. So I think you're going to slot out Mind Probe and put in handcrafted light bow. Now, you might think I'm crazy, because Mind Probe is so much potential, but the consistency of handcrafted light bow is more desirable in my mind, and the cheapness of it and the fact that you can just buy it on Poe make it a better slot for the Mind Probe. Um, and now I'm really just gonna all this other stuff is really just random thoughts. Um, Fiber knife obviously goes into the deck, but I don't know how many actually, because one thing is that hands in a Poe Rey deck where you have multiple action sheets just feel really bad. You want to have one action sheet each turn, ideally. Um, so because you need other cards to have an effective turn, you need cards to use for Poe special. You want to have some defensive events or heals or things like that. So a turn where you draw and you have like 2 hit and runs or a hit and run and a hold up blaster, just it's kind of annoying. You'd rather have some other card in your hand at that point. Now there are exceptions to this. Being able to cheat both Poe and Rey at the same time can sometimes pay off. So having 2 Vibra Knives, 2 Hold Up Blasters, and 2 Hit and Runs is going to mean less slots for other cards in your deck, and it's already incredibly hard to fit everything that you want in a Poe Rey deck. Tactical Aptitude is interesting because you get to draw a card each turn, and then place another one at the bottom of your deck, which is theoretically very useful for Poe Rey because you want to make sure you have something for Poe Special, and it's free. But once again, it's so hard to fit anything in. C3PO is tempting, but it's so slow, and claiming so important that I don't know. I mean, possibly a lot of I see it being runnable, but if you run it, I'd say just one. Ewing, really a meta call. Once again, I hate having cards like Mind Probe that you don't really want to play. Um, Instead, I'd rather have cards like Lightbow, which can deal 3, or I can play it naturally and have it for the rest of the game on Ray. Like you don't want to have bad cards in your hand, and Ewing is like you don't really want to play it on the board ever, because you don't want to waste a turn to roll in Ewing. Um, but if there's lots of tri-character decks, you could see Ewing being run because I mean obviously 6 damage is great. So meta call, it depends on how many 2-character decks versus 3-character decks there are. Planetary Uprising, tempting. I'd rather have more dice that enable Poe to do better, personally. I'd rather have robes out than the Planetary Uprising, which you might think is insane, but yeah. I mean, only works if you clean the battlefield, so if you run into faster decks, it won't help you. Um, but there's a lot of potential damage out of it, so I don't know. Maybe some versions. Um, our only hope is strange and tempting because of how many high cost cards you run. It'd be fun, like to run like a Ewing and Mind Pro version or something, and just be like, well, I'm gonna our only hope turn 1, and it's like, oh, free Ewing. um, seems good. You have so many expensive upgrades that theoretically it could be good, but once again, it's like, how do you slot this into the deck when there's so many cards that you want to fit in? Swiftness is tempting. I don't think you need it, but I could be wrong there. Determination is interesting. If you're running the all-in suite, which I think you should, then you have a lot of focus. So theoretically, you could do something like resolve the 3 disrupt from a 1 with the force for 3 damage. If you have like a robe shrine focus, um, or even just being able to resolve like a 3-for-1 as a 3-for-1 discard could be good at times. I don't know though. I don't think it's gonna be good, but I want to try it once to see if it ever actually works. Mally as the force is pretty good. Um, it might not be worth putting in though because it costs 2. You have to roll something good on a blue dice, and if they go for Ray first, then it'd be like what on a saber or a handcrafted light bow. So not going to do a whole lot. But I mean, of course, this is a dream where if you keep Mind Probe in, you could Mileage the force of Mind Probe and deal 10 damage off of a Ray action sheet. Pretty crazy. Um, but I don't know. Too situational in my mind. High Ground is really tempting removal. Just because it also deals the damage, and it's just remove whatever you want. Here's something that could actually finally remove specials in a Podet. Decisive Blow, really tempting. Um, I love having melee upgrades out there. Um, so even if Poe's left alive, I love having a raised staff double saver Poe. It's just so good. So being able to decisive blow late game could theoretically be good, but I don't know if you put it in because it's so bad if you draw it early. Um, and I don't know. I don't know. I always hate putting in cards that are like really bad at certain points in the game. Guard, I think, should be really good in the deck, um, because of course early game removal for free. You want to spend all of your upgrades, or you want to spend all your resources on upgrades early, so that you can get Rey stacked and stuff like that, and so that you enable the mid game plays. And typically, what the deck would do is it just tanks damage early game. It's like, okay, you dealt 8 to my Poe, but then on turn 3, after you've already played upgrades, you start using resources to field medic and dug in and stuff like that, and you catch back up, like with this retroactive removal. Um, and that works a lot of games where you just come back from the brink, you start playing your unlimited removal, like defensive positions, and like I had a game in the tournament where I had a Poe with 11 damage on him going into like turn 4 or something, um, and my opponent rolls out. I play like an unlimited removal and basically wipe his board. I think I dodged him. Um, Wiped like out of 5 dice and proceeded to play 2 field medics. And so it went from an 11 damage Poe to a you have no dice and left, and I have a 7 damage Poe. So you're able to like catch back up in these following turns. But now with guard and a couple other options, you could actually prevent damage early, which is really key because Poe Rey, it kind of like in the all-in deck, all these mid-game turns where you have both Poe and Rey alive are incredibly explosive. Where if you ever get off the all-in play, you just win the match. So being able to actually keep your second character alive for as long as possible is really nice, and that's why I could see guard being really useful in the early game. You have a free removal option that will still allow you to ramp, but we'll see. It's kind of dependent upon whether you roll melee sides. Destiny is insane. I can just imagine the turn where you play a Jedi Robes, you roll out Rey, get total value of 3, and then you Destiny a Saber onto Poe and roll out Poe. Um, any game where you can get 2 upgrades turn 1 in Poe Rey is just it's so good, and Destiny is so good at doing that. Um, However, if you don't manage to get 3 3 values in blue dice, it could be bad. Um, if you don't have 2 casters in your hand, or if you like play a 2 cost upgrade and you don't have another one, and you don't have a 3 cost upgrade, um, or you have a 3 cost upgrade and you just can't get 3 value, it could just end up being bad. And the other thing is, it's not very good late game. Now you can use it for things like removal. I get that it doesn't have to be to play like an upgrade, but I don't think that there are many high cost removals in this deck that you want to run anyways. But I think the potential turn 1 payoff from Destiny is so insane that I think you want it in the deck. Sensor placement is cool. I don't think you'll run it, but I mean, can you imagine being able to like turn 2 just spend your resources to hit Vader for 3 with one of Vader's dice? Feels so good. It's like a cheaper reversal. Um, Confidence. Once again, I think it's just a cool option to slot in a 0 cost removal into Poe Rey. I don't think this one fits, but if you wanted to, it's an option. It's like seeing like guard and confidence um, really makes me happy. Any cards that are cheap, any events that are cheap are great for Poe Rey. So yeah, those are just some of my random thoughts. Um, One thing I will say is that I think that Poe Rey in Spirit of Rebellion is still going to be insane. I don't think it's going to be that much better actually than it was in Awakenings, because I think that the Awakenings deck that I ran was incredibly good. I mean, I had like a 90-some% win rate in like tournaments that I've played it in, um, and I mean it went 8-1 in the Swiss in Worlds, um, and just this all in suite is so good. But you do get some better options in the Handcrafted Lightbow. Um, you're probably no longer running dug-ins because shields are so bad. Instead, you're running like a slightly better removal cards anyways. Like guard is pretty cool. Um, I don't know. I think there's a lot of cool stuff for Poe Rey. You get vibro knives, which is potentially really crazy. Um, so a lot of good stuff for Poe Rey, but I don't think it's getting that much better. We'll see. I think it's going to be a tier 1 deck. However, I think you're going to see a lot more rock paper scissors effects in the SOR meta, and I think that ultimately um, there is a counter to this deck. There is a deck that if you run into it, it'll just be so sad for Poe Rey, and that is the Unkar with a red villain deck, Imperial Inspection Unkar decks are going to wreck Poe Rey. I think. I don't know, but I think so because A, Poe Rey runs a ton of high cost cards, and Unkar will just take money for days, and he'll crime lord you twice on like turn 2. I mean, that's not going to happen. But in any case, he's going to get a ton of money from you every time he activates his ability. And 2, Imperial Inspection wrecks Poe Rey because you want these 2-cost upgrades are really important. Vibro Knife, Hold Up Blaster, Comlink, Jedi Ropes. These are all really key upgrades to have on the board and early. Um, and if your opponent turn 1 Imperial Inspections with Unkar, you're going nowhere. Disrupt even hurts Poe Rey because how many pay sides you have. So if you ever run into Unkar Red Villain, I think you're just getting crushed. Um, you have the potential to just kill them, especially if they don't try Imperial Inspection. Um, you could win, but it's always going to feel bad if they turn 1 Imperial Inspection you. I think you just lose. It's actually an interesting thing. I really don't like Imperial Inspection Unkar decks. They're so broken because you don't want to run anything. Imperial Inspection makes you not want to run any 2-cost upgrades, right? Still just get bounced. So you look at that deck and you're like, okay, in order to do well against this Imperial Inspection Unkar, I need to have high cost upgrades. Well, if I have high cost upgrades, Unkar is going to get a ton of money from me. So I want to run low cost upgrades, right? So you see that like you're in a trap where you can't play low cost upgrades because they'll get bounced. You can't play high cost upgrades because they'll give your opponent tons of resources. Um, so I don't know. It's just going to be a rough matchup for Poe Rey. But I mean, against everything else, I think it's going to be exceptional. It can deal so much damage. It's just ridiculous. One thing I will say, Poe Maz as like an alternative to this deck, I significantly like Poe Rey more than Poe Maz. Poe Rey has a 2 more health, which is actually a huge deal, especially because of how many decks can like one shot you in actions now. How many good action sheets there are. Having extra health so you don't just die in the first action is really important. And then 2, Rey can actually finish a game really well, and she gives you more resources, so she's better for ramping, which is how you win more consistently, is getting more dice, typically. If you have more dice than your opponent, you have more shots at rolling better sides, which means you have a better average turn. So typically, like I felt like I could have won both game 2 and turn 3 in the game 3 in the tournament because I outdiced my opponent. I had more dice on the board than my opponent did. He rolled insanely with the 2 bow dice that he had. Once again, not to discredit him, he played very well. Obviously, he made it to top 16, and he beat me twice. Feels bad. So he's a good player, but ultimately, more games than not, I should win when I have more dice on the board than he does. So I think that Poe Rey does a better job of having more dice on the board than Poe Maz. Now, Poe Maz will make better use out of Poe's dice because of the focus into special resolution. So there's potential that Poe Maz will be more explosive, deal more early game guaranteed damage, but then once Poe dies, you have Maz, and Maz will not finish a game. I just don't see her doing it. But who knows? Um, I said a lot in this video. I kind of rambled, but let me know if you disagree with anything. Let me know what you think of All In. Try it out in the deck. It's so good. It's the best card ever. But yeah, I had a great time at Worlds. I did decently well. I wish I could have done better. Of course, I wanted to win, but I mean, top 16 is fine. Um, but yeah, thanks for watching the video, and feel free to like, comment, or subscribe, or all 3, or whatever you want to do. But yeah, till next time.